Shalom, y'all. Welcome back to our Bible study of the scriptures through a Jewish lens, a messianic perspective. I'm Beth Shulam, and thanks for coming back. This is installment number 5 about the life of the judge Gideon. Today we're going to look at Gideon's legacy that he leaves behind and the lessons that we can learn from his life. If you haven't seen the first 4 sessions, that thing is moving. I better do that again. Let's start from the beginning. I saw it move. Shalom, y'all, and welcome back to our scripture studies through the Jewish lens, the messianic perspective. I'm Beth Shulam, and thanks for coming back again. This is segment number 5 about the life of the judge Gideon, and we're going to look now at his legacy and what he left behind and the lessons that we can learn from his life. If you haven't seen the first 4 sessions yet, be sure to check out those, because today we're going to see the aftermath of Gideon's victories and the choices he makes in Judges chapter 8 and 9. After Gideon's amazing victory, After the Lord's amazing victory over the Midianites, you might think everything would go smoothly for Gideon, but his life takes a bit of a turn here. In Judges 8, we'll see how Gideon deals with the aftermath of what seems to be his success. And in Judges 9, things get quite complicated in his legacy. We're going to see how the choices that Gideon makes affect not only his life, but the future of Israel. So let's start first. Let's go to Gideon. Judges chapter 8, verses 22 to 27, where we'll see Gideon's response to the success he has just had. So verse 22 is here. Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, "Rule over us, you, your son, and your grandson as well, for you have saved us from the Midianites." But Gideon replied, "I will not rule over you myself, nor shall my son rule over you. The Lord alone shall rule over you." And Gideon said to them, "I have a request to make of you. Each of you give me the earring he has received as booty." They had golden earrings, for they were Ishmaelites. "Certainly," they replied, and they spread out a cloth, and everyone threw onto it the earring he had received as booty. The weight of the golden earrings that he had requested came to 1,700 shekels of gold. This was in addition to the crescents and the pendants and the purple robes worn by the kings of Midian, and in addition to the collars on the necks of their camels. Gideon made an ephod of this gold and set it up in his own town of Ophrah. There all Israel went astray after it, and it became a snare to Gideon and his household. The people of Israel, impressed by what seems to be the leadership of Gideon and Gideon's victory, offer to make him king. But Gideon declines, saying that only God should be the ruler of Israel. Sounds pretty good, right? But then Gideon makes a choice that ends up causing trouble. He asked for the gold earrings from the people and created an ephod. a kind of religious garment. While this sounds harmless, on the surface, the ephod becomes a snare for Israel as the people start to worship it. Gideon's refusal of kingship is a positive decision, but his request for this gold and the creation of this ephod shows a lapse of judgment. The ephod becomes an object of idolatry, something that leads the people of Israel away from the true worship of God. Even though Gideon had great faith and obedience earlier in his life story, here we see that sometimes we can still make choices that lead us astray. What starts out as a good action, a victory celebration, can turn into something that leads people away from the heart of God. So what can this teach us? First, it's a reminder that even the strongest leaders can have moments of weakness. Why? We are human beings. We may start out with good intentions, and I'm sure Gideon's intention here was good. But sometimes we can still mess it all up. It's important for us to remember that our choices, no matter how small, can have far-reaching consequences. How often do we allow things that seem harmless to take over our lives, subtly distracting us from true worship? I'll tell you one thing that does it for me almost every time. This. The ephod wasn't inherently evil, but the focus shifted from God to an object. And that's where things went wrong. Even in our best moments, we need to always be vigilant about where our hearts and minds are focused. We can't let our success or good things distract us from our ultimate purpose, worshiping and honoring God. So, Beth, how am I supposed to apply this? Maybe you've had a victory or success recently, or maybe in the past, and you're tempted to celebrate it in a way that shifts your focus from it being God that made it possible to look what I did. I'm not saying at all it's wrong to celebrate or enjoy a success in your life. Far from it. We need to be proud of our accomplishments. But we need to be careful not to let the place of God in our lives and the shift to happen between God is the one who did this versus I was the one who did this. Whether it's a material possession, maybe like this ephod, I don't know, or a position of influence you may have, or even a good cause that you're involved with, some type of charitable work. We must always check ourselves and make sure we're keeping our priorities and our path straight. So, okay, that sounds all good, but how do we keep God in the center? We have to regularly check our hearts and make sure we're not worshiping the gifts more than the giver. Stay connected to God. And you can do that through prayer, worshiping God, or just spending time right here to keep the focus where it needs to be. Keep your focus on His call for you, not just on your own successes. Unfortunately, things get even worse in Judges chapter 9. Gideon's son, Abimelech, rises up and attempts to take power by force. The division and idolatry that Gideon allowed to happen in his lifetime lead to more conflict and destruction after he dies. Abimelech's rise to power becomes very tragic. It's an example of the dangers of abandoning God's rules in favor of human ambition. While Gideon did a lot of good, and he saved the nation of Israel, his legacy was ultimately tainted by the choices he made later on in life. Our actions and his actions did not just affect us, they affected everyone around him, and his impacted the future generations of Israel. His story is full of victories, but also important lessons about being a leader, the temptations of idolatry, and trusting God completely in every season of life. No matter how strong our faith is, or even isn't, we still need to be aware that our choices impact those around us. In our last session, we'll speak directly to Judges chapter 9 and the leadership of Abimelech. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss this next session. And always, I'd love to hear your comments about this part of Gideon's life. What part of his whole life stands out to you the most, and how can you apply the lessons that we have been talking about in your own journey of faith? Keep the conversation going. It's how we witness to one another. It's how we encourage one another in our walk. So thanks for watching. And again, remember, keep God always at the center of your victories and your choices. Shalom, y'all. Until next time. Bye.
קומי אורי, כי בא אורך, וכבוד אדוני עלייך זרח. קומי אורי, כי בא אורך, וכבוד אדוני עלייך זרח.